Now, I'd love your calls on this. Does the royal family need Harry and Meghan back? 0207 862 2222. Tell us what you think here. We've got Andrew on the line. Hang on.
Good morning.
It's not, okay, thank you. It's not that one. So how are you, Andrew and Devon?
I'm very well, thank you. And how's the panel?
I think the panel are looking good today, actually, very good. So we're just sort of thinking this one through about your namesake, whether it's we need to get Meghan and Harry back just to somehow take the lights away from him.
I think we should, because we need a bit of light here at the moment. We've got, because obviously Prince Andrew, what's happening to him. But what that young lady said, I totally disagree what she says, because all families go through it. Because they're the royals, it's always in the paper, they should get the royal family. No, we have to bring them back to resolve the problem, because if they stay in America, it's never ever going to get resolved.
But would there be ongoing issues? Because I think Emma's concern here is you don't send it back and everyone says, we all love each other. You send them back and then suddenly there's a scuffle, or there's a problem over the diary, or someone doesn't want to do something, or, then you start to get the open wound problem.
Well, this is why you need mediation. You need somebody in the middle who's got nothing to do with the royal family.
Are you volunteering for that?
I would love to do something like that.
It does need. Who would be a good person to mediate?
Not me. That's for
I think someone like Joanna Lumley would be, because if she listened, the people listen to her. Or Jagger?
I'd quite like to see Angela Levin.
Angela Levin of the Mail.
Meghan would love it.
Mediating. I don't know. Attenborough.
Could bring him back. Could bring maybe the dad. Maybe Charles could sit down with his sons and say, look, we've had disagreements, we've had terrible rows, falling out, wrong on all sides, but we are a family. I just look at it on a human level, and I actually think it's sad on a human level.
Oh, for sure. But then one of the things that's come out as a result of Harry's interviews and his book is that he is very bruised by what happened to his mum, and he does partly blame Camilla and his dad. And so I'm not sure in that circumstance his dad should be the mediator. Andrew in Devon, thank you so much. Jenny in Warwickshire, still lots of Jennys. How are you doing, Jenny?
Hi, my dear. Fine. It's a bit rainy here today.
It is raining? Oh, no.
Yeah. Okay, so, no, I don't think they should bring them back because I think it would cause more friction in the family as William really does have a thing about Harry. I don't think it would ever work.
But think about the story that Kevin's giving us here, that how amazing it would be for William to say, I am the future king, I rule not only the country, but I rule my own emotions, and I will now love my brother on command. Isn't that a story? That's a story, isn't it? I'm going to decide to love him again.
I can hear the soundtrack. I can see the lights. It's not going to be easy because one of the things it's thought that William really dislikes Harry is Harry was going to say things about William's life William didn't want said.
But also they had a fight and stuff. And
the necklace was broken around Harry's neck.
But the thing is, personal forgiveness between brothers, fine, that will always be a good thing. But the institutional forgiveness after the absolute attempt to, wreck the monarchy that they've made, I think that they shouldn't be welcomed back into the fold as working royals. I think that would be a mistake, and I don't think it would be good for the country or the monarchy.
But then again, people often say when they watch this show, they say, look at them having a go at Harry and Meghan and missing the big picture, is what Andrew has done to wreck the monarchy.
That's the scandal.
It's much worse.
He might have driven a digger through the middle of Buckingham Palace and nobody even sees it. We see it now. Alicia in London, hi.
Hi there.
Hey.
Hi.
What do you think?
So my point is, what the better question might be, why would Prince Harry and Meghan actually want to return as publicly funded royals? There were original conditions that caused them to step back, and one of them was press targeting, and we're sort of seeing that on the conversation today, where Emma and Kelvin are spreading misinformation, where they claim that it was the Harry and Meghan's attacks, which, ruined, caused all the problems. But as you yourself, Jeremy, have said, there were palace briefings against them, which started back in 2018. And even things like the story around, bridesmaid tears, that came from the palace. So as far as that type of thing is concerned, I can't see that condition has changed.
We've got to sort of park all that, haven't we? With that, that's all water under the bridge now. We're going to assume let's say we can get them back, because let's say
my point.
I thought you said your point. Sorry.
Yeah, my point is that certain conditions, things like press targeting and press misinformation, hasn't changed. As far as I can see, there's still press attacks happening. Like, I've seen a really disgusting article saying that Meghan is worse than Andrew, which is obviously completely not true. And that is still going on today with complete silence from the royal family.
I don't know anything about what you just said. I don't know what that's all about.
Exactly.
Yeah, so but listen, you've sort of said a lot there, and obviously predicated on all of this. Alicia, sorry, don't just keep talking. On all of this is predicated that we could get them back because they might want to come back. And you're quite right, Alicia, they might just say no.
Yeah, so my point is that where certain conditions haven't changed, they're going off and they're doing incredible work, as we're seeing in Jordan today, for example. They're supporting their causes, and they're doing it independent of public funding, and they're obviously able to. Yeah, exactly. So what would be the appeal to them for actually wanting to come back? It kind of seems that, when things are going wrong with the royal family, then there's always these appeals that, maybe we should get Harry and Meghan back.
I hope you feel you've had enough time, Alicia. I don't mean to in any way cut you off, but that's very wise.
3 callers, 1 daytime radio show. And by the end of 8 minutes, Jeremy Vine's panel had accidentally admitted more about the state of this royal family than any palace statement has in years. Family, we need to talk about what just happened on Jeremy Vine, because buried inside a segment that was supposed to be about should Harry and Meghan come back, the panel let slip 3 admissions that the firm never ever wanted said out loud on live radio. Let's get into it. First caller. A man named Andrew, phoning in from Devon. Straightforward question put to him, does the family need Harry and Meghan back? And instead of the usual mushy, it's complicated answer we're used to hearing from royal commentators paid to never actually say anything, Andrew said yes. Then he explained exactly why. Not with vague talk about healing or moving forward, he named the actual name, Prince Andrew. His point, paraphrased, the family isn't chasing reconciliation out of love. They need a distraction, and Harry and Meghan are being floated as the emotional sponge to soak up bad press, while the real scandal, a man who still holds his housing and whose review seems to move at whatever pace suits him, gets to sit quietly in the background. Let that land, squaddies. A random caller, no book deal, no royal correspondent badge, cracked open more institutional truth in 15 seconds than most of the royal rota manages in a year. And think about the actual comparison here. Harry left, voluntarily, committed no wrongdoing, asked for the same category of protection any other departing working royal would reasonably expect. And what does he get? A legal battle over Ravek that's dragged on for years, a media pile on every time his name trends, and now radio hosts casually floating the idea that he should be summoned home like some prodigal son who owes an apology nobody's ever actually specified. Meanwhile, the man attached to real documented allegations keeps everything. No urgency, no pile-on, no when will Andrew face accountability segment running on loop across GB News. That's not a coincidence, family. That's the tabloid machine and the palace machine working exactly the way they always have, protecting the person closest to the throne and outsourcing the reputational clean-up to the person who already walked away. So Jeremy Vine floats the idea of mediation, throws out names of celebrity go-between, maybe even King Charles himself sitting his sons down for a heart-to-heart. Sounds reasonable on the surface, doesn't it? Except the panel then quietly conceded something enormous. Charles might not even be the right person to mediate, given everything Harry has said about how the family handled his mother's death. Read that again. On live national radio, the show acknowledged out loud that Harry's own father may be too compromised to broker peace because of how Diana was treated by this same institution. That is not a small throwaway line. That is the show accidentally validating exactly what Harry has been saying for years, the thing he's been mocked and dismissed for saying in every single interview since 2020. Now, let's be fair, because that's how we operate here. There is a real human piece buried in all this. Families do fight. Reconciliation on a personal level, brother to brother, is not an unreasonable thing to want. Nobody watching wants William and Harry permanently estranged. If this were purely about two siblings needing space and time, that's private. That's nobody's business, including ours. But that's not the question that got asked. The question wasn't, should the brothers heal privately? It was whether the institution needs Harry and Meghan back, meaning does the monarchy need their star power, their global goodwill, to paper over a scandal the institution created and still hasn't resolved? That's not reconciliation, squaddies. That's extraction. That's asking the two people who were pushed out by unequal treatment and press intrusion to now come back and absorb the reputational damage on behalf of the very system that never protected them. And notice who isn't being asked to do anything differently in this scenario. Not the palace comms office that briefed against Meghan for years. Not the family members who stayed silent while she was painted as difficult and cold descriptions that vanished miraculously the second she left the country. Not Andrew, who by the caller's own words is the actual reason the institution needs good press right now. The burden always lands on the two people who left, never on the people or the systems that made leaving necessary in the first place. Next caller, Jenny from Warwickshire. Opposite take from Andrew. She said, don't bring them back, it'll just cause more friction. Fine, reasonable opinion. But then she said the line that should have stopped the whole segment cold. William, in her words, really does have a thing about Harry. Not a disagreement. Not a rift that needs smoothing over. A thing. Something ongoing, something personal, something a total stranger phoning into a daytime show felt confident enough to state as settled fact because, let's be honest, it is. Jeremy ran with it, half joking, painting William as some future king who'll simply command himself to love his brother on cue. Got a laugh in the studio. But strip the joke away, family, and look at what's actually being admitted. The future head of this institution. The man who talks endlessly about unity, service and stability apparently cannot manage a functioning relationship with his own brother. And it's treated as such an obvious foregone conclusion that it's punchline material on daytime radio. Here's where it gets worse. Jeremy suggested William's frustration stems from things Harry said in interviews and in spare things William didn't want said. Sit with that framing. It quietly shifts the blame onto Harry's honesty, rather than onto whatever actually happened that made that honesty necessary. Nobody forces someone to have a damaging story told about them. If William is uncomfortable with what got disclosed, the discomfort started with the events, not with someone eventually naming them. And I'll say this plainly, because that's how we do things on this channel. Harry was right to speak up about how this family treated his wife. Full stop. There is no version of this where staying silent was the noble option. When Meghan was being torn apart in the press, briefed against from inside the palace itself, someone needed to say so out loud. Harry did that. That's not betrayal. That's a husband refusing to let his wife's mistreatment get quietly buried for institutional comfort. So no, nobody needs to feel wounded by Spare. Not William, not the palace. The only thing that actually wounded this family was what Meghan went through in the first place. Naming it isn't the injury, it's the correction. And here's the part the panel never turned around and looked at honestly. Institutional forgiveness. William publicly welcoming his brother back is being framed as some enormous ask. But what's actually been demanded of Harry and Meghan, without complaint, dwarfs that. Years of stories the palace comms team never bothered to correct. Security protection no other departing working royal has had to fight for in court. And now a live national radio debate about whether they should be summoned back to solve a scandal, Andrew's scandal, that has nothing to do with them at all. One host framed the whole institutional forgiveness question as whether the monarchy should reward what it considers an attempt to damage it. That framing quietly casts Harry and Meghan as the aggressors. It never once turns that same lens on William's silence, which is not some passive thing that happened to him. It's a decision, made and remade. Every single day he doesn't address any of it. That's the real story hiding inside Jenny's call, not that William has feelings about Harry, which is unremarkable, but that an entire national conversation has normalised treating his silence as statesmanlike restraint, while treating Harry's honesty after years of being briefed against as the provocation that started everything. And then there's Alicia, London caller. Sharpest 10 seconds of the entire segment, and surprised the one the host seemed most eager to wrap up. Alicia flipped the whole premise, not does the family need them back, but the far more honest question. Why would Harry and Meghan want to come back as publicly funded royals at all? Then she did something almost nobody on these panels does. She brought receipts. Palace briefings against the couple going back to 2018. Stories like that infamous bridesmaid tears narrative that trace directly back to palace sources. Press targeting that hasn't actually stopped. She even referenced a recent piece suggesting Meghan is somehow worse than Andrew, a genuinely staggering comparison, given Andrew is attached to real disclosed allegations and Meghan is being compared to him for the crime of existing in headlines. And watch what happened. Jeremy didn't engage with any of it. He waved it off, essentially. Let's park that, water under the bridge. As if a documented years-long pattern of palace briefings against a mixed-race woman who married into this family is irrelevant context for a conversation about whether she should walk back into that same system. Alicia tried to pivot back to her real point, that Harry and Meghan are doing meaningful work, independent of royal funding, independent of the palace machine, and doing it without the institutional protection that machine hands everyone else. Before she could finish landing it, she was thanked for her time and the segment moved on. That's the pattern, family, and it repeats every single time. Andrew got to finish his point. William's silence got framed sympathetically. But Alicia, the one caller who brought dates, specifics, an actual documented double standard, got wrapped the second she got too specific. Ask yourself why that is. So here's where this leaves us. A national radio show spent an entire segment asking whether the monarchy needs Harry and Meghan back, and in the process accidentally admitted Andrew is the real scandal. Charles is too compromised to mediate his own sons. William's silence is a choice being quietly dressed up as composure. And the press conditions that drove Harry and Meghan out in 2018 haven't meaningfully changed. Alicia said the truest thing on that entire call. Nobody has actually answered why Harry and Meghan would want to walk back into a system that never protected them, and by every sign we're seeing today, still hasn't learned to. I want to hear from you, squaddies. Is William's silence restraint or avoidance? And be honest, if you were in Harry and Meghan's position, after everything laid bare in that call, would you go back? If this gave you a different way of looking at that segment, hit like, drop a comment, and send it to someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe. We've got a lot more of these breakdowns coming, and you don't want to miss them. Until next time, family, stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.